The How to Stop Being Toxic and a Narcissist Workbook. 2 books in one. Master Emotional Intelligence, Heal Your Inner Child, and Overcome Anxious Attachment and Self-Sabotage Without Hours of Therapy. This book includes the How to Stop Being Toxic Workbook, a proven plan to end dark psychology, master emotional intelligence, overcome narcissism, and build strong relationships without hours of therapy. The How to Stop Being a Narcissist Workbook, Heal Your Inner Child, Overcome Anxious Attachment, and Rebuild Emotional and Sexual Intimacy even if you've struggled with abandonment and self-sabotage for years. Written by Caleb Peterson, narrated by Kevin Grote. Audiobook bonus. As a special thank you for listening, I'm offering an Introduction to How to Stop Being Toxic book, Healthy Relationships Toolkit, and Self-Healing Companion Toolbox for free to download in PDF format, exclusive to my audiobook listeners. Inside these bonuses, you'll discover simple yet effective strategies to identify and overcome toxic habits, empowering you to create a healthier and more balanced life. Practical techniques to establish boundaries that protect your well-being and foster stronger, more respectful relationships. Quick and actionable tools to regulate your emotions, helping you stay calm, composed, and in control, even during life's toughest challenges. Personalized insights and proven strategies to improve communication, rebuild trust, and create deeper, more meaningful connections. If you're ready to break free from toxic habits, build stronger relationships, and take control of your emotions with ease, why wait? Download your free bonuses now and start transforming your life today. To download your bonuses, please visit the link emotionalhealingacademy.com/bundle-bonuses. That is emotionalhealingacademy.com/bundle-bonuses. Wishing you all the best, Caleb Peterson. The How to Stop Being Toxic Workbook, a proven plan to end dark psychology, master emotional intelligence, overcome narcissism, and build strong relationships. Healing and Transformation Series Book 1. Written by Caleb Peterson. Narrated by Kevin Grote. Introduction. If you don't heal what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you. Let that sink in for a moment. It's a powerful truth bomb that gets to the heart of why you're holding this workbook right now. We've all been there, caught in a cycle of toxic behaviors, hurting the people we care about most, and feeling powerless to stop it. But here's the kicker. Those toxic behaviors, they're not really about the people around us. They're about the wounds we carry, the pain we haven't processed, and the emotional baggage we've been lugging around. You've picked up this workbook because something inside you knows it's time for a change. Maybe you've seen the hurt in your partner's eyes one too many times. Perhaps you've lost friends and can't figure out why. Or maybe you're just tired of feeling like you're your own worst enemy. Whatever brought you here, I want you to know something important. You've made the right choice. This isn't just another self-help book that'll gather dust on your nightstand. It's not a collection of feel-good platitudes or quick fixes. What you're holding is a proven plan, a roadmap, to help you break free from manipulative habits, master emotional intelligence, and achieve lasting change. This workbook is your first step toward creating the relationships in life you truly want and deserve. Now, I can almost hear the skeptical voice in your head. Yeah, right. I've tried to change before. It never sticks. I get it. Change is hard, and when you're dealing with deeply ingrained toxic behaviors, it can feel downright impossible. But here's the thing. You haven't had the right tools before. You haven't had a guide who's been in your shoes and found a way out. That's where I come in. I'm not just some relationship guru spouting theories from an ivory tower. I've been where you are. I felt the crushing weight of toxic patterns, the guilt of hurting loved ones, and the frustration of feeling stuck. As a relationship and conflict management coach, I've helped countless individuals break free from these destructive cycles. My methods aren't just feel-good fluff. They're rooted in personal experience, practical exercises, and solid research. I know they work because I've seen the transformations firsthand. Let's get real for a moment. Toxic behaviors don't just appear out of nowhere. They're often coping mechanisms we develop to protect ourselves from pain, rejection, or vulnerability. Maybe you learn to manipulate situations to feel in control. Perhaps you use passive-aggressive tactics to express anger without risking confrontation. Or you might push people away before they can get close enough to hurt you. These behaviors might have served a purpose once, but now they're sabotaging your chances at genuine connection and happiness. The good news? You're not doomed to repeat these patterns forever. With the right tools and guidance, you can rewire your emotional responses and build healthier ways of relating to others and yourself. In this workbook, we're going to dig deep. We'll explore the root causes of your toxic behaviors, shine a light on the emotional triggers that set you off, and develop strategies to interrupt those harmful patterns before they take over. You'll learn how to identify your specific toxic behaviors and understand their origins. Develop emotional intelligence to better manage your feelings and reactions. Communicate assertively without resorting to manipulation or aggression. Set healthy boundaries that protect your well-being and respect others. Cultivate empathy and vulnerability to build stronger, more authentic relationships. Practice self-compassion to break the cycle of shame and self-sabotage. This isn't going to be a walk in the park. There will be moments when you want to throw this book across the room. Please don't. Paper cuts are no joke. You'll face uncomfortable truths about yourself. You might cry. You might get angry. And that's okay. Real change isn't always comfortable. But I promise you, it's worth it. As we work through this book together, I want you to remember something crucial. You are not your toxic behaviors. Those patterns don't define you. They're simply habits you've learned. And anything learned can be unlearned and replaced with something better. Think of this workbook as your personal emotional fitness program. Just like getting in physical shape, developing emotional intelligence and healthier relationship habits takes time and consistent effort. There will be days when you nail it and days when you stumble. The key is to keep showing up, doing the work, and trusting the process. Self-awareness is one of the most powerful tools you'll develop through this workbook. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you can see what you're tripping over. As you become more aware of your patterns, triggers, and emotional responses, you'll gain the power to make different choices. You'll learn to pause in those critical moments between feeling and reacting, creating space for healthier responses. But self-awareness alone isn't enough. That's why this workbook is packed with practical exercises, reflection prompts, and actionable strategies you can start using right away. We'll work on rewiring your thought patterns, developing new communication skills, and practicing emotional regulation techniques that will help you stay calm and centered, even in challenging situations. Remember, this isn't about becoming a perfect person. Newsflash, there's no such thing. It's about progress, not perfection. Every small step you take toward healthier behaviors is a victory worth celebrating. As you work through this book, be kind to yourself. Recognize that change takes time, and setbacks are part of the process. You might be wondering, can I really change? Is it too late for me? Let me be crystal clear. It is never too late to work on yourself and improve your relationships. Your past doesn't dictate your future unless you let it. Every day, every moment is a new opportunity to make a different choice. Respond with kindness instead of defensiveness, and reach for connection instead of pushing people away. So, are you ready to start this journey? Ready to peel back the layers, face your fears, and emerge as a healthier, happier version of yourself? If you're nodding, or even if you're hesitating but still reading, then it's time to dive in. Turn the page and take that first step toward transforming your toxic habits into healthy, emotional, intelligent behaviors. Your future self and the people who love you will thank you for it. Let's get started on creating the life and relationships you truly deserve. Section 1. Understanding your emotional triggers. Welcome to a crucial step in your journey toward overcoming toxic behaviors and cultivating healthier relationships. In this section, we'll dive deep into the complex world of emotional triggers, those powerful, often unconscious reactions that can drive our most problematic behaviors. Understanding your emotional triggers is like decoding a personal mystery. It requires patience, courage, and a willingness to look beneath the surface of your actions to the deeper currents of emotion and experience that shape them. This exploration can be challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. As you uncover the roots of your toxic patterns, you'll gain the power to change them. In the pages that follow, we'll embark on a 3-part journey. First, we'll explore the profound link between past trauma and current toxic behaviors. You'll learn how unresolved pain from your past can shape your present actions, often in ways you might not even realize. Through real-world examples, you'll see how emotional wounds can manifest in manipulative or harmful patterns. And, more importantly, how understanding this connection is the first step toward healing. Next, we'll shine a light on the negative thought patterns that often drive toxic behaviors. These are the silent scripts running in the background of your mind, influencing your perceptions and reactions. You'll learn to recognize these patterns, challenge them, and ultimately rewrite them into more positive, constructive thoughts. Finally, we'll develop your skills in self-reflection and awareness. You'll learn to uncover the deeper roots of your behaviors through journaling prompts and targeted questions. You'll also discover how to map your behavior patterns across different relationships, revealing insights that can lead to profound personal growth. This process is not about judgment or self-criticism. It's about understanding, acceptance, and growth. Every insight you gain is a step toward greater emotional freedom and healthier relationships. As we begin, take a deep breath. Acknowledge the courage it takes to look within yourself this way. You're doing important work, and every step forward, no matter how small it might seem, is progress. Let's start this journey of self-discovery together. Part 1. Identifying the roots of toxicity. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Welcome to the first crucial step in your journey toward overcoming toxic behaviors and cultivating healthier relationships. In this chapter, we'll embark on an in-depth exploration of the emotional triggers that often lead to destructive patterns in our interactions with others and ourselves. By the time you finish this chapter, you'll have gained a profound understanding of where your toxic behaviors originate and how to begin addressing them at their very roots. Understanding our emotional triggers is like decoding a complex puzzle. Each piece represents a part of our past experiences, thought patterns, and deeply ingrained beliefs. As we put these pieces together, we start to see the complete picture of our emotional landscape. This awareness is the foundational key to unlocking lasting change in our behaviors and relationships. Remember, this process of self-discovery can be challenging. You may uncover painful memories or confront uncomfortable truths about yourself, but know this: facing these challenges head-on is an act of immense courage and self-love. You're taking the first steps towards breaking free from toxic cycles and creating the fulfilling relationships you deserve. Let's dive in and begin unraveling the intricate web of your emotional triggers. The link between past trauma and toxicity. Unraveling the impact of unresolved trauma. Trauma, particularly childhood trauma, plays a significant role in shaping our adult behaviors. When we experience traumatic events, our brains develop coping mechanisms to protect us from further harm. These mechanisms, while initially protective, can evolve into toxic behaviors if left unaddressed. To understand this better, let's explore the concept of the wounded inner child. This psychological theory suggests that unresolved childhood issues continue to influence our adult behaviors. For instance, a child who experienced neglect might develop an intense fear of abandonment. As an adult, this fear could manifest in various toxic ways. Clingy behavior, constantly seeking reassurance and attention from partners. Controlling tendencies, attempting to micromanage a partner's life to ensure they won't leave. Emotional manipulation, using guilt or threats to keep a partner close. It's crucial to understand that these behaviors, while harmful, often stem from a place of deep-seated pain and fear, rather than malicious intent. The neuroscience of trauma and behavior. Recent neuroscientific research has shed light on how trauma affects our brain and, consequently, our behavior. Trauma can alter the functioning of the amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, leading to heightened reactivity to perceived threats. This can result in hypervigilance, always being on edge, expecting the worst in situations; emotional dysregulation, difficulty managing intense emotions; impaired impulse control, reacting without thinking, often in destructive ways. Understanding these neurological impacts can help us approach our behaviors with more compassion and insight. Exercise. Mapping your trauma response. Take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. Try to identify situations where you react strongly or in ways that seem disproportionate to the circumstance. These might be clues to underlying trauma responses. 1. Describe the situation. 2. Your emotional reaction. 3. Your behavioral response. 4. Can you link this to any past experiences? Repeat this exercise for 3 to 5 different situations. Look for patterns in your responses. How emotional pain manifests in toxic patterns. Emotional pain from past trauma often resurfaces in our current relationships, leading to toxic patterns. Let's explore some common manifestations in more depth. Avoidance. Manifestation. Pushing people away, fear of commitment, emotional unavailability. Example. John, who was abandoned by his mother, finds himself unable to fully commit in relationships, always keeping an escape route open. Overcompensation. Manifestation. People-pleasing, neglecting own needs, losing sense of self in relationships. Example. Emma, whose parents were highly critical, constantly goes out of her way to please her partner, often at the expense of her own well-being. Projection. Manifestation. Attributing own insecurities or negative traits onto others, paranoia. Example. David, who struggles with fidelity, constantly accuses his partners of cheating, projecting his own tendencies onto them. Gaslighting. Manifestation. Manipulating others to doubt their own perceptions or memories. Example. Lisa, who grew up with an alcoholic parent who denied their addiction, finds herself downplaying her own hurtful actions and making her partner question their reality. Emotional volatility. Manifestation. Extreme mood swings, intense emotional reactions to minor triggers. Example. Mike, who experienced unpredictable abuse as a child, has angry outbursts over minor inconveniences, scaring those around him. Real-world case studies of trauma-based behaviors. Let's delve deeper into some real-world examples to illustrate how past trauma can shape current behaviors. Sarah's story. The test of love. Sarah grew up with an emotionally absent father who eventually left the family. As an adult, Sarah found herself subconsciously testing her romantic partners. She would create conflicts or act distant, secretly hoping her partners would prove their love by fighting for the relationship. This behavior, rooted in her fear of abandonment, often pushed away the very people she longed to keep close. Trauma response: fear of abandonment leading to manipulative behavior. Toxic pattern: creating unnecessary relationship drama as a test of loyalty. Mike's experience: the workplace bully. Mike was severely bullied in school, leaving him with deep-seated insecurities about his worth and capabilities. In his adult life, Mike became known as the office bully. He would aggressively assert his opinions in meetings, belittle colleagues' ideas, and always need to win arguments. His behavior was an overcompensation for his childhood experiences, but it created a toxic work environment and hindered his career growth. Trauma response: insecurity and fear of being seen as weak or incapable. Toxic pattern: aggressive behavior and need for dominance in workplace interactions. Lisa's pattern: the perfectionist partner. Lisa's mother was highly critical and never satisfied with Lisa's achievements. As an adult, Lisa found herself being overly critical of her romantic partners. She would point out their flaws, criticize their efforts, and set unrealistic standards for the relationship. This behavior, stemming from her own fear of not being good enough, often led to the breakdown of her relationships. Trauma response: internalized criticism and fear of imperfection. Toxic pattern: excessive criticism and unrealistic expectations in relationships. Tom's struggle: the emotional wall. Tom grew up in a household where expressing emotions was seen as a sign of weakness. His parents discouraged crying or showing vulnerability. As an adult, Tom struggled with emotional intimacy. He would shut down during emotional conversations, unable to express his feelings or empathize with his partner's emotions. This emotional unavailability created distance in his relationships and left his partners feeling unsupported and unloved. Trauma response: suppression of emotions and fear of vulnerability. Toxic pattern: emotional unavailability and lack of empathy in relationships. Exercise: identifying your trauma responses. Now that we've explored several examples, let's turn the focus to your own experiences. This exercise will help you identify potential trauma responses in your behavior. 1. Think about a recent conflict or difficult situation in a relationship, romantic, familial, or friendship. 2. Describe the situation briefly. 3. What was your emotional reaction? Be as specific as possible about what you felt. 4. How did you behave in response to these emotions? 5. Reflect on your past experiences. Can you identify any similarities between this reaction and events from your past, particularly from childhood? 6. How might this reaction be a way of protecting yourself from past hurt? 7. What would a healthier response look like in this situation? Repeat this exercise for 2 to 3 different situations. Look for patterns in your emotional reactions and behaviors. These patterns can provide valuable insights into your trauma responses and the roots of potentially toxic behaviors. Remember, recognizing these patterns is not about blaming yourself or your past. It's about understanding the origins of your behaviors so you can begin to change them. Approach this exercise with self-compassion and curiosity. Recognizing negative thought patterns. Our thoughts play a crucial role in shaping our behaviors and emotional responses. Negative thought patterns, often deeply ingrained and automatic, can drive toxic behaviors in our relationships. By learning to recognize and challenge these patterns, we can begin to change our reactions and cultivate healthier interactions. Common negative thought patterns that drive toxic behaviors. Let's explore some of the most common negative thought patterns in depth. All or nothing thinking, black and white thinking. Description: seeing things in absolute, binary terms with no middle ground. Example: if I'm not perfect, I'm a complete failure. How it leads to toxic behavior. This thinking can lead to extreme reactions, unrealistic expectations of others, and an inability to compromise. Overgeneralization. Description: taking one negative experience and applying it to all situations. Example: I got rejected once, so I'll always be rejected. How it leads to toxic behavior. This can result in giving up easily, avoiding vulnerability, or preemptively pushing others away. Mental filter. Description: focusing solely on the negative aspects of a situation while filtering out all positive aspects. Example: fixating on one critical comment while ignoring multiple compliments. How it leads to toxic behavior. This can lead to constant negativity, an inability to appreciate others, and creating a pessimistic atmosphere in relationships. Jumping to conclusions. Description: making negative interpretations without actual evidence. This includes mind reading, assuming you know what others are thinking, and fortune telling, predicting things will turn out badly. Example: they haven't texted back in an hour. They must be angry with me. How it leads to toxic behavior. This can result in preemptive accusations, unnecessary arguments, and creating problems where none exist. Catastrophizing. Description: always expecting the worst possible outcome in any situation. Example: if I make a mistake at work, I'll definitely get fired and end up homeless. How it leads to toxic behavior. This can lead to excessive anxiety, controlling behaviors, and pushing others away with constant negativity. Personalization. Description: believing that everything others do or say is a direct personal reaction to you. Example: my friend seems distracted today. I must have done something to upset them. How it leads to toxic behavior. This can result in taking things too personally, being overly defensive, and making situations about you when they're not. Should statements. Description: having rigid rules about how you and others should or must behave. Example: I should always be able to handle things on my own. How it leads to toxic behavior. This can lead to unrealistic expectations, excessive self-criticism, and being overly judgmental of others. Emotional reasoning. Description: believing that if you feel something, it must be true. Example: I feel jealous, so my partner must be cheating on me. How it leads to toxic behavior. This can result in acting on unfounded emotions, making accusations without evidence, and creating unnecessary conflict. Exercise: identifying your thought patterns. Take a moment to reflect on your own thought patterns. For each of the negative thought patterns described above, try to identify a recent situation where you engaged in this type of thinking. 1. All or nothing thinking. 2. Overgeneralization. 3. Mental filter. 4. Jumping to conclusions. 5. Catastrophizing. 6. Personalization. 7. Should statements. 8. Emotional reasoning. How to challenge and rewrite these harmful thoughts. Recognizing negative thought patterns is the first step. The next crucial step is learning how to challenge and reframe these thoughts. Here's a detailed process for doing so. 1. Identify the thought. Catch yourself in the moment of having a negative thought. Write it down if possible. 2. Name the thought pattern. Refer to the list above and try to identify which pattern this thought falls into. Understanding the type of thought can help you recognize it more quickly in the future. 3. Question the evidence. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have that supports this thought? Then ask, what evidence do I have that doesn't support this thought? Be as objective as possible, as if you were examining evidence in a court case. 4. Consider alternative perspectives. Ask yourself, how might someone else view this situation? If a friend was in this situation, what advice would you give them? 5. Examine the consequences. Ask yourself, what happens when I believe this thought? How does it affect my mood and behavior? Is holding on to this thought helpful or harmful to me? 6. Generate alternative thoughts. Based on the evidence and alternative perspectives, what are some other ways you could think about this situation? Try to come up with thoughts that are more balanced and realistic, not necessarily overly positive. 7. Choose a balanced thought. Select the alternative thought that feels most true and helpful. It should acknowledge both the positives and negatives of the situation. 8. Reinforce the new thought. Repeat the new, balanced thought to yourself. Consider writing it down or setting it as a reminder on your phone. Exercise. Challenging your thoughts. Let's practice this process with a specific example. Choose one negative thought you identified in the previous exercise. Work through the following steps. 1. The negative thought. 2. The thought pattern this represents. 3. Evidence that supports this thought. 4. Evidence that doesn't support this thought. 5. How might someone else view this situation? 6. What are the consequences of believing this thought? 7. Generate 3 alternative, more balanced thoughts. 8. Choose the most realistic and helpful balanced thought. 9. Write an affirmation based on this balanced thought that you can repeat to yourself. Remember, changing thought patterns takes time and practice. Be patient with yourself as you work through this process. With consistent effort, you'll find it becomes easier to catch and reframe negative thoughts. Building awareness through reflection. Self-reflection is a powerful tool for understanding our behaviors and emotions. By taking the time to introspect and analyze our thoughts and actions, we can gain valuable insights into our patterns and triggers. This awareness is crucial for making lasting changes in our behavior. Journaling prompts to uncover the roots of toxic behavior. Journaling can be an incredibly effective method for self-discovery and emotional processing. Here are some in-depth prompts to help you explore the roots of your toxic behaviors. Childhood experiences. Describe your earliest memory of feeling hurt or betrayed. How did this experience make you feel? How do you think it has influenced your current relationships? Write about your relationship with your primary caregivers during childhood. What patterns or dynamics do you notice? How might these have shaped your current behavior in relationships? Relationship patterns. Think about your past romantic relationships. What common themes or issues do you notice? Are there patterns in how these relationships begin, progress, and end? Describe a recent conflict in a relationship. What role did you play in this conflict? Can you identify any toxic behaviors you exhibited? Emotional reactions. Recall a situation where you reacted much more strongly than the situation warranted. Describe the situation, your feelings, and your reaction in detail. What do you think triggered such an intense response? What are your emotional hot buttons? What situations or behaviors from others tend to provoke strong emotional reactions in you? Fear and insecurity. What are your biggest fears in relationships? Where do you think these fears come from? Describe a time when you felt deeply insecure in a relationship. What triggered this insecurity? How did you behave as a result? Coping mechanisms. How do you typically cope with stress or emotional pain? Are these methods healthy or potentially harmful? Can you identify any behaviors you use to protect yourself emotionally? How might others perceive these behaviors? Ideal versus reality. Describe your ideal relationship. How does it differ from your current or past relationships? What qualities do you value most in a partner? Do you embody these qualities yourself? If not, what holds you back? Family dynamics. Reflect on the relationship dynamics in your family of origin. Are there any patterns you've carried into your adult relationships? How were conflicts handled in your family growing up? How has this influenced your approach to conflict in your current relationships? Self-perception. How do you think others perceive you in relationships? How does this compare to how you see yourself? What aspects of yourself are you most critical of? How might this self-criticism manifest in your relationships? Take your time with these prompts. You may want to focus on 1 or 2 per day, allowing yourself ample time for reflection and exploration. Remember, the goal is not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself better. Questions to ask yourself when toxic impulses arise. Developing self-awareness in the moment when toxic impulses arise is crucial for changing our behaviors. Here's an expanded list of questions to ask yourself in these moments. Emotion identification. What am I feeling right now? Try to be as specific as possible. Where in my body do I feel this emotion? On a scale of 1 to 10, how intense is this feeling? Trigger analysis. What specific event or interaction triggered this feeling? Has something similar happened before? How did I react then? Thought examination. What thoughts are going through my mind right now? Are these thoughts based on facts or are they assumptions? Which of the negative thought patterns we discussed earlier might these thoughts fall into? Reaction assessment. Is my reaction proportionate to the situation? How might my reaction impact others around me? What would a healthier response look like? Fear exploration. What am I afraid might happen in this situation? Is this fear based on the current situation, or is it rooted in past experiences? Need identification. What do I need right now? E.g., reassurance, space, understanding. Is there a way I can meet this need myself or communicate it effectively to others? Alternate perspectives. How else could I interpret the situation? If a friend were in this situation, what advice would I give them? Consequence consideration. What might the short-term consequences be if I act on my current impulse? What about the long-term consequences? Past pattern recognition. Have I been in a similar situation before? What happened when I reacted toxically? Is there an opportunity here to break an old pattern? Growth opportunity. What can I learn from this situation? How can I use this as an opportunity for personal growth? Practice asking yourself these questions when you feel triggered. Over time, this self-interrogation will become more natural and can help you pause before reacting toxically. Exercise. Creating your relationship map. You'll need a large sheet of paper and different colored pens or markers for this exercise. 1. Central Self. In the center of the paper, draw a circle and write your name in it. 2. Identify key relationships. Around your central circle, draw smaller circles representing significant relationships in your life. Include family members, romantic partners, past and present, close friends, and even important professional relationships. Connect each of these circles to your central circle with a line. 3. Categorize relationships. Use different colors to categorize these relationships, e.g., family in blue, romantic in red, friendships in green. 4. Describe dynamics. Along each connecting line, write words or short phrases that describe the dynamic of that relationship. For example, conflict-filled, supportive, distant, intense, etc. 5. Identify common issues. For each relationship, note any recurring issues or conflicts. Write these near the relevant circles. 6. Your typical reactions. Next to each issue, jot down how you typically react. Be honest with yourself here. 7. Outcomes. Finally, note the usual outcomes of these conflicts or issues. 8. Look for patterns. Step back and look at your completed map. Can you see any patterns? Are there common themes in how you react across different relationships? Do you see similar issues cropping up in multiple relationships? 9. Reflect and analyze. In a journal or on a separate sheet, answer the following questions. What patterns do you notice in your relationships? How might your reactions be contributing to these patterns? Can you identify any core fears or beliefs that might be driving these patterns? How do these patterns relate to your past experiences or family dynamics? What changes would you like to make in these relationship dynamics? This visual mapping exercise can be a powerful tool for seeing the bigger picture of your relationship patterns. It may bring to light connections you hadn't noticed before and can serve as a roadmap for areas you'd like to work on. Mindfulness practice. Developing real-time awareness. Mindfulness is a powerful tool for developing moment-to-moment awareness of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. This awareness is crucial for catching ourselves before we fall into toxic patterns. Here's a simple mindfulness exercise to help you develop this skill. Exercise. The stop technique. Practice this technique several times a day, especially when you feel emotionally triggered. S. Stop. Whatever you're doing, just pause for a moment. T. Take a breath. Focus your attention on your breath. Take a deep inhale and a slow exhale. O. Observe. Notice what's happening inside you and around you. What thoughts are going through your mind? What emotions are you feeling? Where do you feel them in your body? What's happening in your environment? P. Proceed. Move forward with awareness. how can you respond to this situation in a way that aligns with your values and goals? By regularly practicing this technique, you'll develop the habit of pausing and checking in with yourself before reacting. This can be incredibly valuable in moments when you feel the urge to engage in toxic behaviors. Understanding your emotional triggers is a journey of self-discovery and growth. Through exploring the link between past trauma and current behaviors, recognizing negative thought patterns, and building self-awareness through reflection, you've taken significant steps toward breaking free from toxic cycles. Remember, this process takes time and patience. Be kind to yourself as you uncover potentially painful truths and work to change long-standing patterns. Every moment of awareness is a step toward healthier relationships and a more fulfilling life. In the next chapter, we'll build on this foundation of self-awareness to start actively changing these patterns. We'll explore specific strategies for interrupting toxic behaviors and replacing them with healthier alternatives. Keep up the great work. You're already on the path to transformation. Chapter takeaways. Past trauma, especially from childhood, can significantly influence our adult behaviors and relationship patterns. Common toxic behaviors often stem from deep-seated fears and unresolved emotional pain. Negative thought patterns like all-or-nothing thinking, overgeneralization, and catastrophizing can drive toxic behaviors. Challenging and reframing these thought patterns is key to changing our behaviors. Self-reflection through journaling and relationship mapping can provide valuable insights into our behavioral patterns. Developing real-time awareness through mindfulness can help us catch toxic impulses before acting on them. Understanding our triggers and patterns is the crucial first step in the journey toward healthier relationships. Part 2. Transforming negative thought patterns. Watch your thoughts. They become words. Watch your words. They become actions. Watch your actions. They become habits. Watch your habits. They become character. Watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. Anonymous. Welcome to the next crucial step in your journey toward healthier relationships and personal growth. In our previous exploration, we uncovered the origins of our emotional triggers and learned to recognize negative thought patterns. Now, we're going to dive deep into the transformative process of reshaping these patterns. Changing the way we think is a monumental but achievable task. Our thought patterns are often deeply ingrained, formed over years of experiences, and reinforced by habit. They're like well-worn paths in a forest, familiar and easy to follow. However, just as new paths can be forged through a forest, new neural pathways can be created in our brains. With consistent effort and the right strategies, it's possible to rewire our thinking and cultivate healthier mental habits. In this chapter, we'll explore advanced techniques for challenging negative thoughts, delve into powerful cognitive restructuring methods, and equip you with a diverse toolbox of strategies to help you maintain positive thinking, even in the face of life's inevitable challenges. Remember, our goal isn't to eliminate negative thoughts entirely. That's neither realistic nor desirable. Instead, we're aiming to develop a more balanced, nuanced way of thinking that allows us to respond to life's ups and downs in healthier, more constructive ways. Keep in mind that change takes time. Be patient with yourself. Each small step you take is progress, and even setbacks are opportunities for learning and growth. Let's begin this exciting phase of your personal evolution. The power of cognitive restructuring. Cognitive restructuring is a cornerstone technique in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a widely respected and evidence-based approach to changing thought patterns and behaviors. At its core, cognitive restructuring involves identifying and actively changing negative thought patterns. It's based on the fundamental premise that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all interconnected in a complex web of influence. By changing one element, in this case our thoughts, we can create a ripple effect that positively impacts our emotions and behaviors. The thought-emotion-behavior cycle. To truly harness the power of cognitive restructuring, it's crucial to understand the thought-emotion-behavior cycle. This cycle illustrates how our internal mental processes connect to our outward actions and experiences. 1. We encounter a situation or event in our environment. 2. Almost instantly, we have automatic thoughts about the situation. These thoughts are often so quick and habitual that we barely notice them. 3. These thoughts generate emotional response. For example, if we interpret a situation as threatening, we might feel fear or anxiety. 4. Our emotions, in turn, influence our behaviors. If we're feeling anxious, we might avoid the perceived threat or react defensively. 5. Our behaviors then create new situations or alter our existing circumstances, which starts the cycle anew. This cycle can be either virtuous or vicious, depending on the nature of our thoughts. Negative thought patterns can trap us in a downward spiral of adverse emotions and destructive behaviors. However, by intervening at the thought stage, we can positively influence our emotional states and behavioral responses, creating an upward spiral of well-being and healthier interactions. Exercise. Mapping your thought-emotion-behavior cycle. To make this concept more tangible, let's do a practical exercise. Grab a pen and a piece of paper, or open up a document on your laptop or phone. Think of a recent situation where you engaged in behavior you later regretted. Perhaps a moment when you reacted with undue anger, withdrew from a meaningful interaction, or engaged in some form of self-sabotage. Now, let's map out the cycle by jotting down the following. 1. Situation. Describe the event or circumstance that triggered the cycle. Be as specific as possible, noting relevant details about the setting, the people involved, and what was happening. 2. Automatic thoughts. What went through your mind in that moment? Try to capture your unfiltered, immediate thoughts. These might be judgments, assumptions, predictions, or interpretations of the situation. 3. Resulting emotions. What feelings arose as a result of these thoughts? Were you angry, sad, anxious, ashamed? Try to name the emotions as specifically as you can, and if possible, rate their intensity on a scale from 0 to 100. 4. Behaviors. How did you act in response to these emotions? What did you do or say? Include both your outward actions and any internal behaviors, like mentally shutting down or ruminating. Five, consequences. What was the outcome of your behavior? How did it impact the situation, the people around you, and your own state of mind? As you reflect on this cycle, where do you see opportunities for intervention? If you could go back to that moment, at which point would you choose to break the cycle? How might changing your thoughts have led to a different emotional response and, consequently, a different behavioral outcome? This exercise illustrates the power of our thoughts in shaping our experiences and interactions. By becoming more aware of this cycle in action, we can start to identify crucial moments where we can intervene and make different choices. Advanced techniques for challenging negative thoughts. Now that we've explored the thought, emotion, behavior cycle, let's dive into some advanced techniques for challenging and reframing negative thoughts. These strategies build upon the basic thought challenging techniques we learned earlier, offering more nuanced and powerful ways to reshape our thinking patterns. The double standard method. One of the most insidious aspects of negative thinking is how much harsher we often are on ourselves than we would be on others. The double standard method helps us recognize and correct this imbalance. Here's how it works. When you notice yourself engaging in harsh self-criticism, pause and ask yourself, would I say this to a close friend or loved one in the same situation? More often than not, the answer is no. We tend to be much more understanding, forgiving, and supportive of others than we are of ourselves. Exercise. Applying the double standard. 1. Think of a recent situation where you were very self-critical. It might be a mistake at work, a social faux pas, or a personal failure. Write down the situation and your self-critical thoughts. 2. Now, imagine a close friend or loved one was in the exact same situation. What would you say to them? How would you support and encourage them? 3. Compare your responses. What differences do you notice? Are you able to offer compassion, understanding, or practical advice to your friend that you withheld from yourself? 4. The final step is to reframe your self-talk to be as kind and understanding as you would be to a friend. How can you rephrase your initial self-critical thoughts in a more compassionate, constructive way? This exercise often reveals just how unnecessarily harsh we can be on ourselves. By consciously choosing to treat ourselves with the same kindness we extend to others, we can significantly reduce the emotional toll of our negative thoughts. The semantic method. The words we use, even in our internal dialogue, can have a profound impact on our emotions and self-perception. The semantic method involves carefully examining and changing the language we use to describe situations and ourselves. Often, our negative self-talk involves extreme, absolutist language. Always, never, completely, terrible, disaster. This kind of language amplifies our negative emotions and can make situations seem more dire than they really are. Exercise. Reframing your language. 1. Start by listing 5 negative self-statements you often think or say. These might be thoughts like, I'm a complete failure. I always mess things up. Or, nobody likes me. 2. Now, let's rewrite each one using less extreme, more accurate language. The goal is not to sugarcoat reality, but to describe situations in yourself in a more balanced, nuanced way. For example, instead of, I'm a complete failure, try, I made a mistake, but that doesn't define my whole self. Instead of, I always mess things up, consider, I sometimes make mistakes, like everyone does. Instead of, nobody likes me, perhaps, I have some good friendships, and I'm working on building more connections. As you practice this technique, pay attention to how the reframed statements feel compared to the original ones. Often, the revised versions feel more truthful and less emotionally charged, allowing us to approach situations with a clearer, calmer mindset. The continuum method. Black and white thinking is a common cognitive distortion that can fuel negative thought patterns. The continuum method helps us challenge this all or nothing mentality by viewing thoughts and attributes on a spectrum rather than as absolutes. Exercise. Creating a continuum. Choose a negative self-belief you hold. It might be something like, I'm unlikable, I'm a failure, or I'm incompetent. Now, imagine this belief as a continuum or scale from 0 to 100. At 0, place the absolute worst case scenario of this belief. At 100, place the absolute best case scenario. For example, if your belief is, I'm unlikable, 0 might be, everyone hates me and I have no friends at all. 100 might be, everyone adores me and I'm universally popular. 1. Now, consider where you actually fall on this continuum. What evidence can you find that places you somewhere between these extremes? Perhaps you have some good friends or colleagues who enjoy working with you. Maybe you've received compliments or been invited to social events. By placing yourself on this continuum, you challenge the extreme negative belief and acknowledge the more complex reality of your situation. This can help reduce the emotional impact of the negative belief and open up possibilities for growth and change. Cognitive restructuring in action. Now that we've explored some advanced techniques, let's put them into practice with a comprehensive cognitive restructuring exercise. This exercise, which we'll call the Thought Record 2.0, is an expanded version of the thought record we introduced earlier. It's a powerful tool for examining and reshaping our thought patterns in real-life situations. The Thought Record 2.0. This exercise is particularly useful when you notice strong negative emotions or find yourself engaging in toxic behaviors. By working through this process, you can gain insight into your thought patterns and actively work to change them. Here's how to complete the Thought Record 2.0. 1. Situation. Describe the event or circumstance that triggered your negative thoughts or emotions. Be as specific as possible about what happened, where you were, who was involved, and any other relevant details. 2. Automatic thoughts. Write down the thoughts that went through your mind in response to the situation. These are often quick, reflexive thoughts that we barely notice. Try to capture them as accurately as possible without censoring or judging them. 3. Emotions and intensity. Identify the emotions you felt as a result of these thoughts. Be as specific as you can in naming the emotions, e.g., anxious rather than just bad. Rate the intensity of each emotion on a scale from 0 to 100, where 0 is not at all and 100 is the most intense you've ever felt that emotion. 4. Evidence for. List any evidence that seems to support your automatic thoughts. Be objective here. What facts or observations appear to back up your initial interpretation of the situation? 5. Evidence against. Now, challenge your automatic thoughts by looking for evidence that doesn't support them. Are there any facts you might be overlooking? Any alternative explanations for what happened? 6. Alternative thought. Based on a balanced consideration of all the evidence, generate an alternative thought that is more realistic and helpful. This doesn't have to be overly positive. The goal is a balanced, nuanced perspective. 7. Revised emotion and intensity. Reflect on how you feel after considering this alternative thought. Have your emotions changed? Rate the intensity of your emotions again on the 0 to 100 scale. By working through this process, you're actively engaging in cognitive restructuring. You're challenging your automatic negative thoughts, considering alternative perspectives, and ultimately reshaping your emotional responses. It's important to practice this technique regularly. Try completing this thought record for 3 different situations over the next week. As you become more familiar with the process, you may find that you can go through these steps mentally in challenging situations without needing to write everything down. Maintaining positive thinking in challenging situations. Changing thought patterns in moments of calm reflection is one thing, but maintaining these changes in the face of real-life challenges is quite another. Life will inevitably present us with difficult situations, and it's in these moments that our new thinking skills are truly put to the test. Here are some strategies to help you maintain a more positive mindset, even when facing adversity. The ABCDE model. This powerful model, developed by psychologist Albert Ellis, provides a structured approach to dealing with adversity. It's particularly useful in situations where you find yourself slipping back into negative thought patterns. The ABCDE model stands for A. Adversity. This is the challenging situation or event you're facing. B. Beliefs. These are your thoughts or interpretations about the adversity. C. Consequences. These are the emotional and behavioral results of your beliefs. D. Dispute. This is where you challenge or question your beliefs. E. Energization. This is the new outcome after disputing your beliefs. Let's break this down with an example.